Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Hello. Yes.
Yep. My apologies. Let me just put the introduction through for you guys. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the YOURGENE Health AGM and investor presentation. Throughout this presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. I'd also like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded. Before we begin, we'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand over to Adam Reynolds, Chairman of YOURGENE Health PLC. Good afternoon, Adam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this year's YOURGENE Annual General Meeting. Delighted to welcome you, all of you, and unfortunately, due to COVID and the restrictions, you can't be here with us, but we'll try and be as thorough as possible. The format today is going to be the formal part of the meeting, which is 7 resolutions and 1 special resolution. I'll then hand over to Lynn Rees, our CEO, Barry Hextall, FD, and Hayden Jeffries, COO, who will go through the presentation, which will then be followed by a Q&A session. So without further ado, let's start on the formal part of the business, which is the resolutions. And the first resolution is that the company's annual report and accounts for the year ended 31st of March 2020, together with the director's report and auditor's report thereon, be received and adopted. Barry, I think you have got
the proxy voting results, Adam. Yes. So votes for were 269,161,320. Votes against 14,497,032. So that resolution is approved.
Great, thank you, Barry. Resolution 2, that Nicholas Mustoe, who retires by rotation, be re-elected as a director. Barry, may I have those results?
Yeah, that resolution also approved. Votes for 269,127,125. Votes against 14,602,794.
Thank you, Barry. So, Nick, you are re-elected. Resolution 3 is that Lynn Rees, who retires by rotation, be re-elected as a director.
Yep, resolution also approved. Votes for 283,600,885. Votes against 129,034.
Thank you, Barry. Lynn, welcome back.
Thank you.
Resolution number 4, that Hayden Jeffries, who retires again by rotation, be re-elected as a director. Barry.
Also approved. Votes for 283,623,927. Votes against 105,992.
Thank you, Barry. So Hayden, your re-election has been approved, which is great. Resolution 5, that Safri Chapness LLP be reappointed as auditors of the company to hold office from the conclusion of the AGM until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company, which accounts are laid before the company.
So that resolution also approved. Votes for 283,795,374. Votes against 22,694.
Thank you, Barry. So resolution 5 is passed. Resolution 6, that the directors be and are hereby authorised to determine the auditor's remuneration.
Also approved. Votes for 283,696,687 votes. Votes against 102,697.
Thank you, Barry. Resolution 6 is passed. Resolution 7, that subject to the Articles of Association of the company, the directors be and are hereby authorised generally and unconditionally for the purposes of Section 551 of the Companies Act 2006 to exercise all powers of the company to allot shares in the company or to allot equity securities up to an aggregate nominal amount of £288,000, being 2/5 of the issued ordinary share capital of the company as at the date of this notice, provided that this authority shall, unless renewed, varied or revoked by the company, expire on the earlier of the date falling 15 months after the passing of this resolution and the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company, save that the company may, for such expiry, make offers or agreements which would or might require equity securities to be allotted or granted, and the directors may allot or grant equity securities in pursuance of such offer or agreement notwithstanding that the authority conferred by this resolution has expired. This authority shall be in substitution for and shall replace any existing authority pursuant to Section 551 of the Act vested in the directors as at the date of this notice, to the extent that such authority not be utilised at that date this resolution is passed. Barry.
Well, that resolution is also approved. Votes for 261,517,765. Votes against 22,316,066.
Thank you, Barry.
That's an incorrect reference to that.
Barry, so resolution 7 is passed. So we now move on to the final resolution, which is a special resolution, which is that subject to and conditional upon the passing of resolution 7 and in accordance with the articles of association of the company, the directors be and are hereby generally authorised pursuant to section 570 of the Act to allot equity securities or cash pursuant to the authority conferred under resolution 7 above and or B, and are hereby authorised pursuant to section 573 of the Act to sell ordinary shares held by the company as treasury shares for cash in each case for the duration of this authority, as if section 516/1 of the Act did not apply to such allotment, provided that this power should be limited to the allotment of equity securities and the sale of treasury shares. A, in connection with a rights issue or preemptive offer in favour of holders of equity securities, in proportion to their respective holdings on the record date for such allotment, subject to such exclusions or other arrangements as the directors may deem necessary or expedient to deal with fractional entitlements or any legal or practical difficulties under the laws of or the requirements of any regulatory body or stock exchange of any overseas territory or otherwise. And B, up to an aggregate nominal value of £288,000 being 2/5 of the issued ordinary share capital of the company as at the date of this notice. And the authority hereby conferred shall expire on the earlier of the date falling 15 months after the passing of this resolution, the conclusion of the next annual general meeting of the company, save that the company may, before such expiry, make offers or agreements which would or might require equity securities to be allotted or granted, or treasury shares to be sold after such expiry, and the directors may allot or grant equity securities or sell treasury shares in pursuance of such offer or agreement, notwithstanding that the authority conferred by this resolution has expired. Barry,
sorry, I missed that, Adam. Could you say that again?
I'll repeat it again, Barry. So, which part is Barry?
That resolution also approved. Votes for 249,129,286. Votes against 34,693,640.
Thank you, Barry. So that is, the special resolution is passed. And that concludes the formal part of this year's AGM. So I'd now like to hand over to Lynn, Barry and Hayden for the presentation.
Thank you, Adam, and welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today in this new interactive format. It's a great way that we can reach hopefully more of our shareholders, so we'd like to thank you for being here today and for your commitment and loyalty as shareholders of our organisation over the last year. I'm just going to give you a quick business update. So to start with the company overview, everyone hopefully knows that we are a truly international business. We now sell our products and services in over 60 countries. I've been in my role now for about 2 and a bit years, and I think when I started we were just getting into double digits, so made significant progress with our international footprint. We use DNA analysis technology. We use 2 main platforms, PCR and NGS, next-gen sequencing, so we're platform agnostic. As we spend a lot of time talking about, those systems are available to be used on a range of hardware, so we're hardware agnostic as well. We've had a strong record of successful M&A over the last couple of years. First of all, acquiring YOURGENE to give us a significant new set of products in the reproductive healthcare space and reach into Europe. We acquired our French distributor in March 2020 as we were looking to roll out our new Illumina NIPT format, with France being our biggest core market. We acquired X5 Genomics in July 2020, which Hayden is going to talk a little about our genomic services plan a little bit later on. And our most recent technology acquisition was the acquisition of Coastal Genomics. As well as acquiring business, we're also effectively organically growing the business very strongly. A mixture of both is leading to some, very impressive growth rates over the last couple of years. We're AIM listed, based on the London Stock Exchange, and we have a headquarters in Manchester where we talk to you from today. Also a facility in Singapore, US, Taiwan, and most recently, Canada. In terms of the last 6 months, I'm trying to speak to you guys as often as I can, and the last time we were all together, I just wanted to give you an update since that. We started the end of last financial year with the acquisition of our French distributor. As I've said, I wanted to have direct conversations with that customer base as we were rolling out this very new product into the market, and to obviously have those conversations around range selling. We had our own sales force in that region as a result of the acquisition of YOURGENE, and we wanted to sweat that asset and leverage that. In June, we launched our new Iona NX NIPT workflow, which is the product that works on the Illumina platform, and made us the only company in the world that offers NIPT on both of those platforms, covering about 90% of the global sequencing machines in the market. A significant achievement for this business. And so one of the questions that's popped up, are we focused on COVID, or are we focused on our core business? We are absolutely focused on our core business. And I'll talk a bit more about that later on. In July 20, we produced our annual results, a £16.6 million revenue performance. So I think it was about a 70% CAGR, Barry, on year-to-year basis. So continuing that excellent growth journey. In July 20, we acquired our X5 Genomics, and we haven't really spoken about that today to date. So as I said, Hayden's going to give us a good introduction into our plans there and what we're looking to bring to the table. In August, we launched our ClariGene assay. The next couple of slides, I'm going to talk to you about our response to COVID. But we started developing that product around about April time, so to get from full development to full launch of a CE IVD approved product in such a short period of time should give you some understanding of our technology capability and what we can do in the future in terms of new products that we can bring into this space. In that same month, we did a fundraise for the acquisition of Coastal Genomics. We significantly oversubscribed again, so that's 2 fundraisers on a row. So our story is clearly resonating with the shareholders, and we acquired the business based in Canada, Coastal Genomics. In September, we launched our Iona NX NIPT workflow. I'm going to give you an update on where we are with that. And you'll have seen very recently this week we announced our IBL contract with the US. So the reason for putting this slide in is again to demonstrate another solid half year of execution, which goes against 24 months of execution. Now the business has hit every one of its numbers that it set out, and it delivered all of its strategic objectives, whether that was managing the Thermo debt position, or getting access to the Illumina platform, or increasing the number of products and services that we offer the market, and indeed increasing the global territories in which we sell our products. So we'd like to think that we're continuing to execute as a leadership team, and we're very, very pleased with the progress that we've made. COVID testing. So before I answer that, I'm just going to have a quick look at the message board. Mr. Rees, I understand you're on the boards of MoLogic and Abington. I'm not on the board of MoLogic. I am on the board of Abington. Do you believe you can add value to both of these companies? Yes, I was in charge of a rapid test company for 20 years, so they're leveraging my experience and expertise in the lateral flow market. I commit 1 day a month to those organizations, so I don't see it impacting anything I do with YOURGENE, and hopefully I will bring some good value to those companies. Next question, is the CMS with Novocyte still in place? No, I've explained this before. We started to manufacture some core reagents for them that are very core to the quality and the performance of the assay, but aren't that material. We were hoping for a bigger partnership, but then we decided that we wanted to develop our own product. My expectation is the market will continue for some time. I don't think a vaccine's around the corner, and even if it is, it hasn't really worked in the flu market, which is still a huge testing market. So I wanted to have my own product in that space, especially given our capability to develop products in a 4-month time frame. Having become a competitor, you can understand that relationship with Novocyte really did slow down. So we're still an approved supplier, I believe, Hayden, to provide them with raw materials, but we compete in the market space now. And so there was the revenue that was generated was very small. And as I said, we were busy fools. We were building the engine of a product that was not really where the value was, and I wanted to build my own product. So I'll hopefully that answers your question, Steve. Nigel, I'm going to come back to yours when I cover off Iona NX progression. So in terms of COVID testing update, where are we today? Well, as I spoke about in the last update that I gave the market, we were looking to expand our capacity out of our Manchester facility to process 10,000 samples per month. I'm delighted to say we have achieved that. We've built the capacity, and from October, we will be testing 10,000 samples a month from our Manchester facility. You'll have seen in the analysts' reaction to that this morning that they've increased the revenue off the back of that up until the end of March. And they haven't put anything further forward, and that's the way I intend to play this over the next quarter. Quarter by quarter, I will update you. It's a very fast-turning market. There's a lot of business out there. I'm delighted that we've secured those 10,000 samples. I've also been very clear in my communication that we haven't looked at government work up until now. We've been very, very much focused on the private sector, getting sports teams back on the parks, kids back in schools, etc., etc. Having delivered that, we are now actively increasing this capacity, part funded by the additional money we raised as part of the Coastal Genomics fundraise, to support the government Moonshot scheme using proceeds from that. So we are actively involved in those discussions at the moment at government levels, and as I said, we'll update you as soon as there's any further news on those things. To add to that testing capability, we also have our own assay, the Clarigen SARS-CoV assay, which I've explained has received CE-IVD approval. That is currently being evaluated by over 10 institutions through our customer network and is in routine manufacture. So just to sort of summarise on COVID, you'd have seen a small uplift in the numbers this morning. We will continue to update you as we win new business and as we build further capacity in this space. But just to be really, really clear, this is a product and market adjacency for me. We have got such an exciting future ahead of us with our core business that I don't want anything to distract from that. So we have built our opportunity around COVID, around existing capacity. With the additional funds we've raised, we will add additional capacity, and none of that will impact the growth rates, current or future, for our core business. Next slide, please, Barry. Okay, the Iona NX update. So I've got a question here from Nigel. We are transitioning key customer accounts to Iona NX. Can you please describe the benefit to the company and the customer of this transition? In particular, does it increase our revenues or profit or margin? I'm not going to go into the profit or margin, Nigel, but the benefit to the company is we don't get sued for selling our products, because that's the reason that we developed this product, was to sell our NIPT solution into the markets where there is IP coverage. And just to refresh on those markets, it's Europe, it's America, it's Australia, it's Japan, it's China, Brazil. So pretty much majority of the global healthcare markets we were not able to sell our products in. So as a shareholder, Nigel, hopefully you'll be relieved that we can now take our products and services into that additional white space in the market, and that's the reason we developed this product, so that we could sell into that space. So where are we on that in terms of the Iona NX update? We're following the launch of the product. We're happy to update that all of our existing accounts have signed up to transition to the new accounts. So that was our obvious key focus, was to make sure that we retained our existing business, and we've done that, predominantly through the UK and the French markets. The French distributor that we acquired earlier on in March is on track to hit its first milestone. 2 labs are now live in France, and the rest of the target customers will be in place in the coming weeks. That's slightly ahead of our schedule, so what that means now is we've got a sales team that can be deployed into other territories, Italy, Germany, South Africa, Scandinavia regions, to go and build new businesses and new products and services that we hadn't factored into our numbers for this year. So the rollout of new NX territories is working really, really well. Obviously, each time you put a product into a market, you've got to get a local regulatory submission. So for some time, we've been making sure we work in those regulatory submissions. They're all on track, and we are comfortable and confident that we have the right approach to take our products into EU, Japan, and Australia. Some real big markets to move into. In terms of US growth, we announced yesterday, the new non-exclusive marketing agreement with IBL in the States. This is to take our PCR products, our DPYD, which for those shareholders that remember is our chemotoxicity product that we soft launched last year. That's now being used widely in many key territories and is absolutely growing like a weed. So we want to put a bit more resource and a bit more support around that product commercially. It takes our pregnancy loss Q-Star products in, our male factor infertility and our cystic fibrosis. The addressable markets for those products in the US is about 30 million, which is why we went with the distributor as opposed to a direct sales force there. In addition to that workload, we have new collaboration in reproductive health for our YOURGENE Flex software. This is where we sell our bioinformatics technology and capability, a service that we'd historically given away as part of our package, if you like. We are about to sign up a prestigious partner with which we expect revenue to contribute from H2 onwards. And again, we'll give you more visibility in October. Our US plans have been hamstrung a little bit by the fact that none of us can travel there. And continues to be a difficult market to access from a travel perspective, but the opportunity is very, very much there in the US market. It's the largest global healthcare market, and the signing up of a new distributor and the signing up of the customers that are coming from our direct sales team in that market will be valuable for many, many years to come, I'm sure. Okay, Barry, there's a question popped up for you. I need a glass of water. Andrew K, do you want to answer Andrew's question, Barry?
Yeah, so Andrew's asking about, we talked about EBITDA profitability in the RNS this morning. The question is also, is the business cash generative and is this forecast to continue? The business is now in a position where it's generating sufficient cash to cover its operating costs. Any cash consumption is around now about investing in the growth of the business and the number of opportunities we have. Obviously, the significant fundraise that we were able to achieve, thanks to those shareholders who supported that in early August, that again gives us a lot more fuel in the tank for the opportunities that we have ahead of us.
Excellent. Thank you, Barry. Okay, the YOURGENE product and service tree. I think the reason for having this slide in is just to show how far we come in terms of new products and services. You know, when I first stood up in my first AGM 2 years ago, we were an NIPT business, and we were an NIPT business that worked only on the Thermo Fisher platform. Where I look at us today, we're now an NIPT business that works on both Thermo Fisher and Illumina. We've added about 70% of the global addressable market for these tests into our capability. We've taken an oncology view. This is, between reproductive healthcare and oncology, they were the fastest growing parts of the molecular market. I think we add infectious disease into that now, obviously off the back of COVID. But in oncology, our DPYD product is now in 20 accounts and growing globally. Barry says we over-raised money, in August. We'd like to deploy some of that to put more commercial horsepower around some of these fast-growing products. We've decided to split off and sell our Flex analysis, and we are launching that into the US and Japan with some really exciting partnerships to update you on when we can. We've developed the new Iona NX workflow. It's been received brilliantly in Europe, and our global rollout is now happening at an accelerated rate compared to our plans. We developed our first infectious disease assay, which is the Clarigene SARS assay. We've told you how we're helping football teams and teachers and movie stars back into their occupations. We're now going to be helping the NHS as well. So more updates to come from our COVID test service and the sales of our Clarigene products. And obviously we've got the consolidation of our genomic research services, which is coming soon. So in terms of a portfolio of products to offer our customers, and as this market matures, our customers are going to be looking for more and more products from their partners, because they're managing the supply chain and all of those things. It's just harder if you're buying single products from single companies. So having a really competitive product portfolio to offer this ever-growing potential market that we sell into, and to give to our ever-growing commercial team, so I really sweat that asset, was one of our key objectives. And I think from this slide you can see that we're absolutely nailing that in terms of the number of new products and services that we have coming into the market. And I can maybe hand over to Hayden at this point to give us an update on our latest plan, which is our genomic research services.
Thank you, Lynn, and it's a great segue into this. As we look to offer more and more to our partners, the Genomic Services group allows us to become much closer to clinical research organisations and pharma and biotech. And we're now able to operate as a full service partner to those companies within molecular biology. So coming to the same company for all the parts of that development process, which really enhances our contract development programs that we're running. So right from biomarker discovery, where you're looking for that gene or that indication, to the clinical sample processing that we can conduct in our laboratories here and in Taipei, in test development through our industry-leading R&D team, to regulatory approval, and through manufacturing and commercialization. So we can work with partners to take them all the way through that journey and add value at each stage for both them and for us. And this also has been allowed to happen by the investment we've made in refitting our labs in City Labs in Manchester, and we plan to mirror this in Taiwan in the next half of the year to support the APAC contract opportunities. We want to be able to bring pharma partners and offer them a global service, both here and in Taiwan.
Thank you, Hayden. Now, obviously, part of the reason of being a business on the AIM market is so you can raise money, you can buy businesses that accelerate the organic plan. So I think it's fair to give you a quick update on our Coastal Genomics, which was our most recent acquisition. The integration team has been established and key milestones mapped out. I manage key projects within this organization under a system called PMO, Project Management Office, and the integration of Coastal Genomics is now a key PMO within this business. Virtual meetings have taken place or have been scheduled with the majority of the Coastal key customer and prospective partners, because one of the key initiatives was to take this wonderful technology and just make more people know about it. As I mentioned, when we were raising money for this technology, we were the early adopters. We were the first people to use this technology to improve the workflow and reduce the cost per sample in NIPT. And having taken two very strong product offerings to the market, we saw the opportunity in oncology and in the wider molecular testing market. So we've been able to hold those initial virtual meetings with key customers, and they've all gone really, really well. The global commercial sales force underneath Hayden's careful watch have been trained on the range selling, so they can now sell the automated machines, the robotics, and the solutions that these guys in Coastal Genomics give us. And before we bought Coastal Genomics, their sales team was one person, and that was the CEO, who spent about 40% of his time selling. So we've now gone to 30 people talking about this product, talking about the services in the global marketplace. And to make the numbers work for Coastal Genomics on their earn-out, we've got to go from 50 machines placed to 250 machines placed in the next 2 years. And with 50 machines under one guy and another 200 to place under a team of 30 sales professionals, we feel very confident of delivering that. IT and accounting integration is in progress under Barry's careful eye, and we've knocked out all of the integration projects we've done over the last 2 years together, so I'm very confident that Barry and his team will handle that very, very effectively. We're looking at resource mapping. They're going to go on a growth journey, not dissimilar to the one that we've gone, so we're sharing our experiences and learnings with them. We brought a couple of non-execs around the board in Canada to help to mentor the team there, especially at these times where we physically can't get on a plane and spend time with them, to make sure there's no gaps in there. And we've laid out the new commercial opportunities and have identified the budget. So hopefully, shareholders, that leads me to my final slide, which is around the outlook. So the core business, as I keep saying, has remained very resilient during this pandemic. I think we're one of the fastest growing recruiters in the local economy. And, we haven't lost any business, and the momentum is building with all of our fundamental growth drivers intact. We have a really strong pipeline in place to deliver a strong H2 in line with the consensus analyst forecasts, and that includes the update that went in this morning. If you look at the Stifel note and the N+1 note. In addition, we expect to deliver accretive COVID revenue this year. As we told you about the orders we've won, we told you about the capacity that we currently have. We're in the process of building additional capacity, and we're in the process of broadening our customer horizons by having cut our teeth in the public market, going into the NHS and PEG, etc. In terms of the next time you'll get to hear from us, we have our mid-October, our half-year trading update, and then December, we'll have our half-year results. And as promised, I will keep updating you on any COVID news that we have, and obviously anything in the business that is deemed material enough to update you on in the forthcoming months. So hopefully, shareholders, that's given you a good, clear update. Back to you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Lynn, and thank you, Barry. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of the screen. But just before going into the Q&A session, I'd like to remind investors that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and published Q&A, can be made available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard. I'd also like to remind you that feedback is important to the company, and immediately after the presentation has ended, you'll be redirected for the opportunity to provide feedback in order that the company can better understand your views and expectations. And we'd very much encourage you to do so if you could spare the time. Lynn, Barry, Adam, obviously I'd like to now hand back to you. Perhaps, obviously investors can't see either questions that are coming in the live event or indeed those that were pre-submitted. And if I may hand back to you, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to run through a list of questions. As I said, we've increased the number of we've answered the questions as we go along, which is a bit distracting because they keep popping up on the screen now. So I'll answer the ones that got printed out and we'll try and come back to those. But Hayden, we've received a question that basically asks, are we going to use the Coastal Genomics technology in our new PCR products and the COVID test?
Thanks, Lynn. So the answer to that is no. Today, the majority of PCR tests utilize fluorescence-based reporting systems, so there will be no added value in putting in the Coastal Genomics technology there. We use the light bench from Coastal Genomics as we call it the YOURGENE QS250, and it's part of the Iona workflow and the Sage workflow as well.
Excellent, thank you, Hayden. And the next question is linked to that. So if we use it in our own workflows, can it be used anywhere else?
Yeah, the QS250 or the Coastal Genomics technology has really broad utility in NGS workflows, especially where quantification, size selection may be deemed advantageous. And that's certainly not limited just to NIPT. We expect to see things in oncology and maybe in rare disease as well. And we're looking actively to work with other parties who are deploying in their laboratories as part of their workflows, or maybe in something that we develop later on.
Okay, thank you, Hayden. We've had a question about my view on the liquidity of YOURGENE stock and the number of shares and issues. And obviously, guys, unfortunately, I can't comment on the share price trading volumes as they're completely outside of my control. Question 4, in relation to Esperet, who have been a long-standing debt, will we see the approximate £900,000 that they owe us, Barry?
I think it's highly doubtful, to be honest. It's a very distressed business. We have protected our position and continue to have legal advisors in place, but it is a very distressed business. I wouldn't hold your breath.
Okay. Thank you. India has seen good growth. However, it's concerning to see Newberg now offering Chrome NIPT based on an Illumina platform. This follows on from Willow in Sweden, moving to Harmony. Are we helping? Is there a concern that we are helping to establish key markets and then lose them customers to Illumina? NIPT is very competitive in a growing market, and I think specifically in India, cost often outweighs the quality of the test, and I will never compromise on the quality of my test. So the Indian market, we will always have some competition. With regard to Sweden, we've never been in Sweden, so we haven't established a market there, but we look forward to getting there very soon. Following on from question 2, when we can expect to hear about the results from the St. George's tender? Oh gosh, it would have been so nice to announce something on that, around this AGM. We're still awaiting the results of the tender, and as soon as the NHS Trust can announce the NIPT tender outcome, I'm sure they will. We remain confident that we have an excellent NIPT workflow for St. George's, and we hope that we can continue to work closely with this leading NHS NIPT lab. Another question that came in, hopefully we would have had an update prior to the AGM, but is Clarigen COVID our current priority at the expense of our core NIPT service? Absolutely not. Hopefully that's come through loud and clear today. We have got a huge opportunity ahead of us in NIPT, in reproductive healthcare, and oncology. We've got so much white space to grow into. COVID is a significant opportunity, but it is not as established as the other two. So the core business is absolutely focused on reproductive health, NIPT, and oncology. We are making a big play in COVID, and we're resourcing that incrementally with the spare capacity that we have. So it's absolutely not detracting from the core story of the business. We don't need to. We've got enough stories to satisfy, all of the growth that we need to do out there. Okay, we all know the UK government has struggled to launch and operate a robust programme. Are we providing services? Up until this point, no. As I said, it has not included the government, NHS or PHE. It's been with a range of private healthcare or corporate testing programs that we've been able to get samples through our Manchester facilities. However, our capacity has now reached that point, and as we look to the next incremental step up for our capacity, we then come into play to win some of those government contracts and to work with some of those partners. So not until this point, but from this point onwards, I guess would be the way I summarise that answer. Question 9, has there been any further traction with the launch of the business in the US? Well, we've just given you a US update. We've got our US incorporated. We had revenue from the US last year. We just announced a distributor. We've got some very exciting partnerships that we look forward to updating you about in the future. And the US is probably the most exciting market in our portfolio right now across the business. Question 10, what are your ambitions for infectious disease and reproductive health business? Do you believe that either could grow and rival the NIPT business over the coming years? I guess, infectious diseases, absolutely, if you look at the numbers of tests that need to be done right now. Whether it'll be around as long as the NIPT business is yet to be known. I expect that infectious disease will move to a panel where we'll all end up in a van outside a school or a hospital or outside our workplace, getting a test before we can return to normal life, and that will be for flu A, B, SARS, COVID, etc. So I do expect that business to grow. Oncology, there's how many chemotherapy on 5FU each year? Hayden?
2 million globally.
2 million prescriptions written for that drug, and our test is the product that tells you if that drug is going to kill you or not. So, the addressable market there is 100 million, and we are the best performing product in that sector, and have already picked up quite a number of key strategic oncology accounts, and look forward to winning more in that. So the answer to that question is we back fast-growing addressable markets, and infectious disease is now one of them. Considering the massive demand for COVID testing in the UK and globally, and having seen other AIM-listed biotechs take full advantage of this pandemic, will YOURGENE be seeking to further extend its capacity? Yes, but not at the expense of the core business. So as I said, we had a very strong core business that was performing really, really well. I didn't want to create any hostage to fortunes in the marketplace by going out on a wing and a prayer with COVID. I wanted to update you when I had solid numbers, solid capacity, and we've done that, and we will continue to do that on a quarter-by-quarter basis, as long as the market is there. Question 12, why do you think Stifel have maintained such a low estimation of the value for the company for such a long time? And what do you see that is needed to break out of that highly restricted barrier of 19p? Again, I can't really comment on the share value or estimation of value placed in the company by our third party. I encourage you to maybe ask them. And then the final question that we received over on the phone is, what is the total sales target for YOURGENE in the next 6 to 12 months? Where are the biggest growth drivers estimated after this next 12-month period? So the analyst consensus as of this morning was about 25 million for this year, and we're confident of achieving that. And as I said, we will come back to the market with any further updates as we win more business in that COVID space. We continue to see growth across the board, as I've hopefully demonstrated in this presentation. US, European, growth for NIPT, and all our general services, the YOURGENE products. Oncology is a significant fast-growing space for us, and we're making a good investment into our Taipei facility, as that business has grown so dramatically over the last couple of years, and we expect to see continued growth there. So we've got good diversification in our product and customer portfolio to give us a good balance now, so I expect all of them to continue to grow at the rates that they are. Right, okay, we've got some questions lining up on the screen. Barry, can you take us to the top of the screen? No, I got no need to share with you the non-exec board members.
No, they can't see these.
So just to remind you, of course, only the presenters can see questions submitted by investors. So where it's appropriate, if we could just ask you to read out the question with your response, and anything that we don't get to during the meeting, we always have the opportunity to review post.
Thank you. So we're going to pick up one from James. Will the quarterly COVID updates include number of tests performed and revenues received? Barry?
Certainly number of tests performed, but yes, we'll give an indication.
Okay, so yeah, we don't really want to give away price because that might give our competitors a lot of information, but number of tests performed, absolutely. There's a couple of questions on profitable and break even. I think Barry's probably addressed that already.
Yeah, so I mean, we put out our year-end, full-year numbers in end of July. There'll be a half-year interims update in early December, and that'll provide the information on profitability. Expectations, I think, in the analyst forecasts are if we hit the numbers that we think we can hit in the full year, that we would start to get to full profitability.
Thank you, Barry. What's happening with the employee share incentive scheme? I don't know if that's from one of our employees or an investor, but we can give an update on that.
Yeah, we're very far advanced on that, and we'll update investors once that's launched. But that's something that we're very keen to do, and we think it aligns employees with investor expectations.
In terms of, do we have any aspirations? John N has asked, do we have any aspirations for international supply for COVID testing? Absolutely, yes. Of those companies that are currently evaluating the product, I'd say only one is in the UK, two in the UK. And we are actively pursuing regulatory approval to get our product into most, if not all, of global territories. So yeah, I would say that we are pushing hard. In terms of our COVID test, is it fast enough?
Yes, the COVID test is fast enough. It's not deployed at point of care, it's used in central laboratories, and it is certainly quick enough.
Okay, Gary B's asked if we intend to stay non-profitable until the thermo debt is cleared. Thermo debt was cleared.
I think this is a reference to a contingent liability arrangement about commissions in Southeast Asia. I think a large part of that's been eroded by the share price increases in the last 18 months. But that's not a burden on the business. It's not a debt as such.
Okay. Lots of questions coming through on share price and our future ambitions for listings and the like. As we mentioned earlier, we're not really in a position to give you a view on that. Okay.
Is a NASDAQ listing an objective at some point?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Are you able to provide? Hang on. Can you scroll down, Barry, to the last question?
All right.
In the previous update, you mentioned approximately 500 tests could be made available to the partner network. As I said in my update, the COVID test is now in routine manufacture. We have the capacity to build 500,000 tests between now and the end of the year, so nothing has changed there. And our customers are evaluating that product right now. Do you intend expanding your COVID test into point of care?
No.
Not really, no. That's not our place in the market. That's more lateral flow. We're more of a laboratory-based confirmatory test, so the test that will allow you to get on the aeroplane because it's done by a professional lab as opposed to, mum doing it in the kitchen. So there's a market for both. I would say I've never seen a market of this size and scale in the global diagnostic business up until this day, and there's position for us and them.
I'll take the top one.
Yeah.
So there's a question from Andrew. Are you able to provide links to the updated research as part of the materials from this meeting? That's not our research to distribute. So Stiefel write on us, as do N+1 Singer. Over Walbrook, our financial PR firm, do have a bulletin which talks about consensus views. So they aggregate that information into a summary for retail investors. And that's available on the Walbrook website.
Excellent. And Stephen P, I think Thermo Fisher are selling an oversight test on their website. Yeah, I mean, Thermo Fisher is a catalogue company, so they have literally thousands upon thousands of SKUs. But I think the Thermo Fisher focus is very much on the Thermo Fisher COVID assay.
Yeah, they are one of the providers into the Lighthouse laboratories in the NHS now. So I think it's just the fact it's a catalogue item.
Yeah, so I don't think I've got any ambition to put our product in the Thermo catalogue. We built our own pipeline, and we will be managing that accordingly. So hopefully, guys, there's not many. Well, we've answered all the questions.
It looks like, yeah, you definitely have. It looks like you've gone through most of those. And if for whatever reason there are any that we have missed, then of course we can always look at them post-meeting. I guess I think that probably concludes both the formal presentation and the formalities of the AGM. So I guess if I could hand back to to you to perhaps to wrap up, and then I know feedback is important, and investors will be able to provide the company directly feedback post this meeting.
Yeah, just on that note, I mean, we've never done an AGM in this format before, so it would be really good to get feedback, you know, from you guys. We are desperately trying to improve the way we communicate with all of our shareholders, both big institutions and the private shareholders. You know, Walbrook are doing a great job, but if you could give us feedback on this, we are really keen to understand how we can do things better. Thank you again for your support, your loyalty. We are super excited about the opportunity that this business brings, and thank you for voting me in for another term. It's very much appreciated. Adam, over to you.
Glad you're back for another term. Gosh, yes. Just want to, we'll formally now wrap up the meeting. I'd like to thank all the shareholders for their support, and I hope we'll have a very successful year in the current year. So thank you all very much for emailing in your questions and attending this sort of virtual AGM. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Adam, Lynn and Barry. Could I ask investors please not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback to the company. If you access this meeting from our website, the feedback page will appear. And apologies, I think there was a small issue in connecting into the meeting for about 30 seconds earlier today, but thank you for connecting via the platform. And if you connected via the link sent to you by email, then please just log in and do provide the company feedback. On behalf of the management team of YOURGENE Health PLC, we'd like to thank you very much for attending today's presentation. That now concludes today's session. Good afternoon to everyone.